We all saw USC actually look physical on defense against LSU to start the season. And the scheme was never the problem with Alex Grinch. Not that it was the greatest, but he knew where to tell him to line up and who to guard and where to be. It was adopting that physical mindset that had been holding Lincoln Riley's teams and defenses back from allowing the team to be balanced and therefore able to actually win a national championship, not just get close. The hire of D'Anton Lynn, at least so far, seemed to have turned that tide. But this Saturday, against a Michigan team that may not be explosive offensively, but we do know that they're physical, we're going to get to find out if that game against LSU was a flash in the pan or if that's who USC really is now. They're going to face better offenses down the road. That isn't the question. It's the physical aspect of this game. Growing up, USC's ability to not only hit you in the teeth, but smile while doing it wasn't in question. California may have problems, but I remember USC being the anomaly. They weren't the surfer dudes who just wanted world peace. They were the angry group that wanted to leave you in pieces. After all, this is the home of Brian Cushing, Troy Polamalu, and Ray Maualuga. Deep down, this is who they really are. And if they have found themselves under this new defensive regime, along with Lincoln Riley's wizardry on offense, USC isn't going to just be knocking at the door. They're going to kick the thing down. So say what you want about Michigan's inability to throw the ball, and to be honest, you'd be right. But the question for USC isn't can they win a 7-on-7 tournament. It's can they turn back into the fence-biting, helmet-butting machine that brought them to prominence. And if they show that's who they really are, watch out, because this group does not need a sword. They're going to be cutting you down either way. We're bringing former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. And David, I want to go back to something that, I think gets lost when we look at coaches and the performance of whether they be coordinators on their side of the ball or a head coach and the performance of the whole team. Scheme matters. I'm not saying that. But there's been a lot of bad coaches, right, that looked good because their players were just better and they had a physical identity. That's what these Lincoln Riley teams had been missing at Oklahoma and so far at USC. So if there's one thing outside of whoever wins the game that I think we're going to find out about this USC team this weekend against Michigan is have they truly adopted that physical mindset and that tone of physicality that we grew up watching them have. This isn't a new thing. This would be them actually reverting to what got them to
That's a good way to put it, because how I was thinking of it is USC's performance on defense against LSU looked different, which means it looked similar to the USCs that we grew up watching and that I had to play against in the Rose Bowl my freshman year. Those Pete Carroll-led teams, we think about Reggie Bush running all over the place and having two Heisman Trophy winners at the same time with him and Matt Leinart and have, the one team they had it running back with Lindell White, all that. But man, like that defense was so physical, took pride in coming downhill and hitting you. Is this defense that? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But something looked different in the LSU game. And what an opportunity this week to go on the road and play a Michigan team that really for the last few seasons has prided itself on its physicality. And now Alex Orji is going to start at quarterback for Michigan, which means that they're going all in on that approach for the Wolverines. They are going to be more. They're going to be more one-dimensional. But they're saying we believe so much in that one dimension with Kalel Mullings and Donovan Edwards at running back, and now Alex Orji being able to run in the, really put a hat on a hat from the quarterback run standpoint, that we're just going to impose our physicality on you for 60 minutes and see if you can stop it. What better challenge would you want if you're USC right now to be able to showcase, hey, things are different? My question for you, when you start talking about scheme versus mentality, we're only a few months really removed from the defenses that we said Lincoln Riley just can't win because he's so weak on that side of the ball. Whoever he puts at defensive coordinator, it's just not working. That's going to be his kryptonite as a head coach moving forward. If this is truly like a recalling to the USC defenses that we remember from 15 and 20 years ago, how much of this, there has to be some element of scheme, right? Like it's just not a defensive coordinator coming in and saying, we want to hit people hard. I mean, all of them are doing that. What is the element, and it's not new enough to have recruited all better players. Like at some point, you can recruit, in a couple of years, we can say, they recruited better defensive talent and they had an eye for that. But right now, if this defense is significantly better than what Alex Grinch was doing, how much of it is scheme versus like just coming in with a different mentality?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because there is a correlation there. And since I'm not in the room, I can tell, USC is running a lot of man coverage, and I can see some of the things they're doing. But to me, we used to call it addition by subtraction, right? Sometimes, and again, I wasn't in the room with Alex Grinch when he was going through it. You can overload guys so much that they're having to think to a point where they can't react, and therefore they're not playing fast, and you're almost like absorbing, right? When you're thinking harder than you're playing, it limits that physicality to some point. So I don't want to call it a dumbing down because I don't know that for certain. But I think just being the human condition, going in there and saying, guys, listen, I'm not going to give you a playbook that's size of a Harry Potter book thick. I've got principles schematically that I want to run, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to know where to line up, and we're going to come downhill. You guys are going to play fast. I'm not going to overload your brain with if this happens, that happens, this happens, that happens, whatever, check to this, that, and the other. We're better than they are because we're going to line up and kick their ass. So to me, I think there is some correlation between, and Blaine, I mean, you know this, saying, all right, we're going to have enough to where we're sound. We know how to check the empty. We know how to check the quads. We'll be able to line up into formation in the boundary. But I don't want to give you too much where I'm eliminating your stinger because we're a physical football team, and we may not be the most complex, but we're going to be the most direct, and we're coming right at you.
Yeah, the last thing you want on defense is a guy's overthinking things. You almost call it the Harold Perkins syndrome, the way LSU did Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins doesn't know what to do. Schematically, there's not a huge difference to me when Alex Grinch and the guy they have in there now. I just think it's from a talent standpoint on defense. I mean, mentality, I'd rather you go 100% full speed and make a mistake than sit back and think about what you need to do. And I think that's what it's brought to this USC defense. But the thing about me is how much do we really know about this USC defense? Well, I think we.
That's the question.
I think all three we can sit here and say that they're better, obviously better than what they were in the past couple of years. But it kind of makes me look at who LSU is, right? I think LSU, especially early, was a finesse football team, right? They weren't great at running the football. They had over 100 yards against USC, but now, okay, you're about to run into a team. Even in the Arkansas State game, you had over 300 yards of rushing. All right, you can somewhat say that offensive line is starting to figure it out. You will find out everything you need to know about this USC defense this year. And not even that. Let's flip it to the other side, okay? I mean, you can go back, and USC is a really good throwing team, but you have to have a running element if you want to make it all the way. You had 60 yards rushing against LSU. Pretty sure South Carolina had 240 yards. And you flip it back to the other side. You know how many sacks USC had against LSU? Zero.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there positives on this defense to USC? For sure. From what you were, absolutely. But I still don't know yet if it's good enough to take you where you want to go. And you will find out Saturday because it's going to be 4 quarters of I'm going to punch you in the face 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards. And if they can do that, that'll prove a lot more to me than what they did in the LSU game.
And to your point, when you go back and after having played that game against LSU and USC, sometimes, and I'll do this, especially kind of in spring games if I want to see teams, I will watch the game again and I will close my eyes and just listen during plays. Because you can hear an increase in physicality in some of these games. And just off the huff, when I go back and I close my eyes and I listen to the sound that USC makes on defense, as opposed to what I've heard in the past, I do think there's a difference. But we don't know if this is who they really are yet. It's a great start. That's why I started with it and posed it as a question, not a fact. Because the biggest, thing we talked about with USC going to the Big Ten, the same reason we worried about them was the same reason we felt good about Oregon. We're like, Oregon is a physical team. That translates. We talk about that with Utah being able to fit in any conference because they're physical. And yes, I get that USC didn't run for a lot of yards against LSU. I'm not worried about Lincoln Riley's offense. That's the last thing I'm worried about. Just like I'm not worried about Kirby Smart's defense at Georgia. There's some things that if you show me who you are enough, I'm going to believe you. If this USC team, and nobody's saying they're going to be the greatest defense that they've ever had or the best defense in the country, they don't need that. They just need to be good enough to make this team balanced enough to not get close, but to actually get over the hump. So the question is not answered. That's why if I'm a USC fan, I am thrilled for this matchup. This is what I need to see. I don't need to see us running around in a team that runs the air raid and is in empty the whole game.
Yeah.
You may run into that. That's great. But you're not winning a national championship because it's a 7-on-7 tournament. You're going to win a national championship because when push comes to shove, literally, and you got to go up against a Michigan offensive line, which, say what you want, I know they lost a lot of guys, but Michigan's good up front. To me, that's not a question.
Yeah.
You get to find out. We talked about this with Missouri a little bit with Boston College. As a fan, I want to know. And I would rather know early than to sit here and be like, well. And then week 7, I'm like, oh my God, our defense really does suck when we go up against somebody that's legit. So to me, this is a great, they call it a litmus test, right? That's what this is for USC's defense. And again, nobody is saying Michigan is this high-powered offense that you got to worry about this and you got to worry about that. No. But the weakness of USC's defense has been physicality. And Michigan has a PhD and a doctorate and whatever comes past that on physicality, at least testing you, right, in the run game. And now with Orji, it's times 10.
Yeah. But that's what makes it an even better litmus test for USC, because you get to face a physical opponent who wants to run downhill and you get to test your defense, but you get to do so without J.J. McCarthy being on the other side, without Blake Corum or Jim Harbaugh being on the other side, which I think you can gain some advantages here or there depending on what we see from Alex Orji. With USC on offense, I think Michigan's defense will do a really good job at stifling the run. I think that's what they do best. How exposed will they be in the pass game? That remains to be seen, because Lincoln Riley and Miller Moss, they can do a lot of things that Steve Sarkisian
and they hide it.
Quinn Ewers can do, and I had to watch that with my eyeballs in person. That was painful. So that's on the offensive and the Michigan defensive side of things. For USC's defense, I've been, let's just think, what would be a successful showing beyond just winning the football game? Just forcing multiple 3-and-outs. How often do you let Michigan get into the red zone? How many rushing yards? What would be a metric for success for the USC defense against Michigan's offense?
Well, it's two things. I think 3rd and short is to me what I'm looking at. When it's 3rd and 2, and Michigan's going to run it a ton this game. You can assume they're going to run it. But when it's 3rd and 2, and it's 3rd and 3, or it's 3rd and goal from the 2, and I know they're running it, and you know they're running it, and everybody in the world and around knows that they're running it, can USC line up and stop it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to, that and just the way it looks.
And Texas did.
And Texas did.
In those situations.
And Texas did. And we say, what about Texas now? Well, it seems like their line of scrimmage ability has seemed to become an identity, which has helped them move from the suburbs, into the estate with a pool and a gate. So again, the way it looks too, tackling in open space, right? The discipline ability to want to go stick your face in it. How many times have we had to say about a Lincoln Riley defense, whoa, man, you got to hold those guys back. Like, hey, man, well, easy. That's going to be targeting. We haven't had to say that. It's been like, where's the stinger? Where's the stinger? Are we going to find out now that they have found it because you brought in the right guy? And because if you mix a good defense with what Lincoln can do on offense, then it is an absolute problem. There's not many better matches made in football success heaven than Lincoln Riley with a good defense when you know what he can do on offense.
Well, I'm just hoping Michigan can get guys in open space to see if USC can open space tackle.
That's true.
That's one part of it. You got to get guys in the open field. And then on your 3rd and short point, I want to see Michigan get in 3rd and short, because that means they're not in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. So that would be a great litmus test for both programs too.
Without a doubt. YouTube, what is up? Appreciate you guys stopping by. Hope you're having a fantastic week and football season. If you hadn't hit that subscribe button already, please do it. Turn that notification bell on, because we're pumping out content like a gas pump, and it's free.